Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Hervé and his team, for all of their leadership in putting together another tremendous conference. I think it is even larger than last year, so this is exciting. And for me, thank you all for taking time out of your day to come and learn not only about technology, but about building your industry for the future. It's nice to have a chance to share ideas with leaders from around the country. It's also nice for me to be here because I can be in Paris on the day of the American election. It's a very special treat. I do appreciate the picture of Donald Trump that you have provided here, so. But no, I just digress. Let's talk about the digital experience, because increasingly our successful business is being conducted, mediated, and even introduced through the digital experience. This conversion is faster than ever before, and it's certainly not only real estate that deals with this. We're really talking about a complete transition of our economy from the sort of real space to the virtual space. And I want to share with you some ideas from best practices, not only here in France, but around the world, including some things not to do, as well as some things to do. So let me take you through some of the various ways I think you can build better digital experiences. You can create new opportunities to find customers and to delight the customers that you have, which of course becomes the source of future business. So what is this digital experience? Well, it's really the online version of what it is like to be with you, the customer's journey with you and your company and the services and your products, which of course are our homes. It's also a very different mentality for attracting business. The digital experience is a change in your mindset from advertising first to experience first. And I think it's quite clear probably to all of us that great experiences generate far more money than the largest advertising budgets, because they're able to have a lasting impact that advertising cannot do and has to constantly recreate. And finally, the digital experience is a method for developing a customer relationship long before they need us and long after they work with us. It changes really the concept of business generation into a long cycle relationship. And real estate is a very long cycle business. And so we must make sure that along every point of this path, they're having a consistent experience, one that is building the relationship as well as the transaction over time. I think of the digital experience sort of like a walk together with our clients. When I took this photograph, it really was, for me, symbolic of the experience I want clients to have with my organization. I want them to feel like we are close together, and that it can be stormy or rainy or dangerous around us, but that they're safe and comfortable. And the process of real estate is very complicated. And whether you're buying or selling real estate, there are complications. But for us, it's even more complicated to generate positive experiences along a journey for which we don't often have ultimate control. There are many other players in the journey. So I want to talk about this walk that the customer will take, how we attract them, how they learn and discover why we are the right selection for them, or the property is the right property for them, and how we act as an advocate for them, not just legally or financially, but an advocate for their dreams, for their hopes, and for their story. And I want this to happen before the transaction, but I also want to encourage you to emphasize the relationship for life. No matter where I go in the world, the greatest source of business is really the referral. And that referral comes not from just getting the best price or the shortest time, but from saying to myself, I wouldn't want my friends or family to have any other experience than the experience I had with my broker. And so we want to make sure that we're thinking digitally about cultivating that experience. This is also very advantageous for us as brokers. It is very hard for your competitor to copy your experience. They can copy your website, they can copy your photography, they can copy your platforms, they can copy your pricing, but they can't copy what you do to make the experience special and unique. And this reduces the pressure on price or commoditization that we all face. It also limits the external competition from simply turning real estate into the lowest price transaction as opposed to the highest quality experience. It's sustainable regardless of market cycle. So if the market is up and we have a lot of money, this is good, but if the market is down and we don't, it doesn't impact our ability to generate additional business because we're focused on creating one-to-one personal experiences. And of course, it's all about the emotions. It's not just about the latest software or tools. It's not just about the latest internet features. It's about the emotions that we can create and sustain through those tools. This is a sort of image of a map, a customer journey map. It's like getting to work in the morning, but for them it's a very long journey that could take months, or in some cases in luxury property it could take years. And most of us have collected information all along the transaction cycle. We gather data really well, but what we don't gather are the experiences and the frustrations. And so I want you to start thinking in terms of the customer's story format. If someone starts today and they begin thinking about real estate, what does that story look like? Who are they talking to? What tools do they touch first? Where do they have information? Where do they lack information? But more importantly, what does it feel like for them to be in the process of real estate? Are they happy? Are they excited? Are they frustrated? That is the area in which you can have the greatest impact in developing relationships. I sort of think of it like small little signs along the road. And what is the experience of that sign? Is it a surprise? Is it create joy? Does it create unhappiness? When we discover each of the places that we can create, I hope, more delight than frustration, we can create a very powerful business-generating experience. These are the 5 or 6 different areas, depending on how you look at the last 2, but the 5 or 6 different areas in which we can create really positive touch points. And I want to just talk about the best practices in each one for a few moments. And I want you to remember that they're all cumulative. This is the hardest part about digital experience. They may have a great experience on our website, but then they may call our office and not have a good experience. They may receive a text from you very quickly and be happy about that, but then they're frustrated with having to sign 25 documents over and over again, as opposed to electronically. Every single experience they have ultimately reflects on us, even when we can't completely control it. And this cumulative effect is really the point at which great companies make great experiences by considering it as a whole. So let's talk about search for just a moment. These are some statistics I'm sure you're familiar with, but it helps to set the stage. First, virtually everyone is using a portal to search for homes. The search game is done. It's up. The fight for search is really not the fight anymore. We can't possibly have enough resources to outsmart the portals. But that's okay, because we can reallocate those resources to the more important aspect of what happens after someone searches. But virtually 87%, 9 out of 10 use a portal to search. Most of the searches being done today for property are by young people under the age of 50 years old. So the vast majority of searches for buying are between the ages of 25 and 50. And there are lots more data points. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on all the data points, but you can find the study online. Uberflow was very nice to send it to me online, so I appreciate the data, really quite helpful to me. But it really sets the stage for this conversation, because when we think about who's doing the search, 25, 30, 35 years old, we start to think, what experiences delight them, and how are they different from our sellers? Because our sellers are 45 to 60. And their experience is quite different. And of course, what matters is what matters, whether we're buying a home or an automobile or an airline ticket. Convenience and time, and ultimately, mobile first. And I'm going to talk for a few minutes about mobile because it truly is the game changer in digital experience. And I can prove that because right now, the vast majority of people in this room are taking notes and taking photos, and some are not even paying attention to me because of their mobile device. And this is really the change, the social change that drives the innovative real estate change. France is a mobile-first country. The world is mobile-first. There's no question about it. There are 838 million internet users in the European Union, and they actually have over 1 billion subscribed mobile devices. This means, of course, they have multiple devices per person. In France, a quarter of the mobonauts are under 50 years old. So we're talking about an entire generation that is mobile first. To them, it doesn't seem natural to sit down in front of the computer or the laptop. It just seems natural to reach into their pocket, take out their mobile device, and commence any journey from there. A fifth of them, 20%, are very young, 25 to 34. And on the other end of the spectrum, about 10% are over the age of 65. Mobile is pervasive, and you must begin to adopt a mobile-first philosophy because it's driving over $1 billion in transactions in France every single year. The fact that people can stand on the corner and buy anything with one thumb is critical to understanding how to change the real estate experience. And so the very first thing you must do, more than anything else, is to take a fresh and clear look at the mobile experience of your website. All of the images I will show you here today are generated from my iPhone. So they're not screen captures from a computer made to look like this. They're simply captured from my iPhone. When I land on a page, it must automatically understand that it's on a smart device. It has to be responsive, and there are many vendors in the trade show that I saw this morning who are focused on this, so you have lots of help all around you. But it also has to be clean. This is a clean design. I was writing some of the slides for this program while I was in Italy, and literally just thinking, okay, let me open up a website randomly for real estate. It's clean, it's clear, it's mobile friendly, and it can be navigated with a thumb. And this is critical because the ability to move through your website by just using your thumb is something that is not yet normal in most websites. Let me go back here for a moment. I also want to point out at the bottom that the sites must be location aware. One of the ironies of the digital experience is that people want to search for a home, but they do not want to search. Those are two very different things. They want their mobile device to take advantage of its ability to know exactly where they are and to provide content that's relevant to what they're thinking. This is a very simple form, the most basic form of artificial intelligence, for your website to know where they are and what they would want to do first. And so when I open a real estate site on my smartphone, it should know what part of the city I'm in, and it should know the most important thing to the real estate customer is the property search, and it should do the work for me. So the idea of search, of sorting by price, or even to some degree playing around with a map is starting to change, because around the world and across France, people want to literally just have information pre-thought, pre-prepared for them. It's also about understanding that it's not about the browser, but that it's about the app. A little over 90% of consumers use only one search app for real estate. So the idea that they're downloading 5 or 6 or 10 apps is not shown in the data. Most people will discover an app, become happy with it, and leave it alone. And they will use that app even if something better or faster or newer comes along. It takes a lot to change the mind for the consumer to download an app. And the reason is that we're full of apps on our smartphone, and yet we probably only use 5 or 6 a day. Think about how many you have and how many you're not using. So you must have a compelling app or must be present in compelling apps, which is why I use an image here of YouTube. Because if the compelling app is YouTube, then your compelling search must occur in YouTube. And it has to be compelling. It cannot be a video shot on a smartphone, half upside down, half drunk on a dark afternoon. It has to be quality content. It has to be in Instagram, quality images that evoke emotions. Because the photo-based applications, I don't know what's happening to my remote here, but if you don't mind, hang on. Could we go backwards, please? Thank you. Okay, sorry. Because the photo-based applications already have in them huge numbers of users that are happy to browse through and dream about real estate. Now I want to say one more thing about apps and mobile first, and that is that we can generate a significant amount of leads through mobile search, but we must become better at converting those leads. Typically, companies report less than 5% lead conversion in their mobile space. And this is just a great waste of time and money. If we are converting only 5%, then we really have to think about whether the effort we're putting into this form of electronic lead generation is worth it. The best companies that we work with around the world are converting 20 to 22% of their leads, virtually 1 in 5. So it's quite important for you to not only have good use of the mobile device, but to have really strong lead conversion, which, to be quite honest with you, is about making it simpler for people to connect to you from their smartphone. They do not want to fill out a form on a tiny screen. They do not want to have to fill out 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 lines. In fact, they might just prefer to send a text. They might just prefer to connect automatically through WhatsApp, an app you don't even control, but to go from Instagram directly to you, to go from the search app directly to you. So really think about, once they're excited by their discovery phase, how easy is it for them to then get to you? Which leads us to what Google calls the 0 moment of truth. Now, you've heard about the 0 moment of truth for a long time, but in real estate, the ultimate 0 moment of truth is not the discovery of the home. It is the discovery of you. And this is something I don't think we're really putting first in our technology. Once they have enough interest in the home, it is the best moment of truth when they can immediately get connected to you and have a fast response, a response within 5 to 15 minutes, a response that doesn't say, here's everything that you want, but just that I'm here. I'm able to help at whatever speed you want to go, but that there's no long disconnect between finding property and finding the broker who can make it happen. In fact, most consumers take less than 6 seconds to form an opinion. But it's not just the opinion of the house, it is the opinion of the potential transaction they will have. So when they ask for help, the clock starts. And it is a very short time between they get frustrated and move on. And there are other psychological aspects you could look at. You could look at having more content about your company or about yourself. We know that 2/3 of people prefer to have a lot of story content about the organization very upfront on the app. But the truth is, really the most important impact you can have on the digital experience is the response time and response rate to incoming leads. Now, it's not just response time, because as we have more information and we have greater access because it's always with us, we increasingly live in disbelieving times. The consumer today is so smart that they virtually disbelieve all marketing. And I can say that because you disbelieve all marketing. Don't think the buyer or the seller is any different than you. You know what an ad looks like. You're frustrated by them. You understand when you're being told a story that's not true. And so this disbelieving time is just us, because we're empowered by so much information. So another area of great digital experience is the testimonial. The testimonial reduces friction between a customer who does not yet know us and obviously our proven record. And so testimonials are increasingly a powerful way to reduce the friction and to increase the opportunity to create a digital relationship. And when it comes to testimonials, the key, the most important aspect of a testimonial is that it is reliable. And so unless you're Amazon, which can claim to have its own testimonial platform, you'll want to think about organizations that can provide you third-party distance to your testimonials, that they can handle testimonials, organize them, and validate them. And this is increasingly important because no matter what we're buying, whether it's a new piece of technology or if we're talking to someone in the trade show, we always ask the same question. Who else have you worked with? Who can I talk to? Can they validate that you deliver on your promise? This aspect needs to come to our real estate websites. It needs to come to our mobile apps, and it needs to come, as we'll talk tomorrow, to our social media as well. The ability for others to believe others is greater than any marketing budget we can create. Okay, let's talk about some more of the fun stuff in digital experience. The discovery phase is a great opportunity to create delight. And what I've discovered, because I've taught all over the world, I was just this last 2 weeks in Amsterdam and Brussels and Florence and Bologna, and no matter where I go, it doesn't matter, we seem to have a gap between our ability to say we want to create an emotional reaction and what we're delivering. Real estate is an industry that's built on emotions. No matter how many facts, figures, maps, charts, graphs you create, you cannot overcome the emotion of a buyer who walks in and simply changes their mind. And for an industry that's built on the emotional moment, we're doing a rather weak job of creating emotions in our digital experience. So I want to talk about some ways to do that quite easily, because this is really the challenge that we have to break from. This is what they call multiple listing in Hong Kong. it's actually really the same all around the world. We think that more advertising will catch attention, will cause someone to call us, but advertising is not the solution. The solution is to look at every aspect of our discovery phase and ask if there's an emotion attached to it. Now, this may seem really old-fashioned, but the truth is, you could sit down all day and look at real estate websites in your city, in your country, and around the world, and you will discover continuous missed opportunities to create emotions. Just think about the photographs. Just think that every photograph is an emotional storytelling tool. And then just look at photographs. In fact, I recommend that companies once a week sit down as a company and randomly pick 2 or 3 properties and just look at the photographs. Most of us will probably want to do this with our competitors' listings first. But if you're really brave, you should do this for yourself. Because the first thing people look at are the photos. They don't read the facts. They might have searched by price. But when they see the discovery of the property, the first and most powerful thing they will see are the images. And yet when we look at images over and over again, we find that they're doing a very weak job. We have million-dollar properties that are shot as if they look like a prison. We have multi-million-dollar properties where we can't see inside or outside. We have 200,000 euro properties that look depressing and sad. Who would want to sit at that table facing the wall in the corner? We have castles that at least have a dragon, which is good news for some people, maybe young people. And we have other images that say to customers, don't work with us because clearly we can't generate enough buyers to keep the cobwebs off the door handle. And for goodness sakes, please stop taking pictures of toilets. No matter where I go around the world, I don't know how to say it simpler than that. The toilet is destroying the industry. Because these are not images that create any emotion, or if they do create an emotion, it is not the one that we want. No one is going to call us for an appointment or email us from there. So what are we talking about? Great photography. We'll talk about video in a second. Great photography. And my friends, your smartphone is not helping you. It is not helping you. Hang on, I don't know what's happening with the remote. Oh, I think my remote and their remote is going on at the same time, just so you know. So your smartphone is not helping you. You must have a professional photographer. This is the lowest common service denominator. I cannot imagine that we would ask anyone to pay us to market their home and to feel good about providing that marketing from a tiny little sensor, handheld, with no sense of staging, no sense of light, no sense of composition. This is the lowest common denominator, but great photos create great emotions. And of course, more than that, moving photos, movies are going to be the primary tool for selling real estate. When I was here last year, I showed a number of movies. I'm going to show you one. But I want to just tell you that the research continues to show there's almost no better investment. For each euro spent on a movie, the return is dramatic. They increase landing page conversion by 80%. People land, they see a video, they get engaged. The average French consumer spends 16 minutes watching video ads every month, and 1/3 of them trust video ads. These are great numbers. These are numbers you should be deploying to your advantage. And in fact, even if you were just using email, adding video to email dramatically by 200 to 300% increases the opening rate, the click-through rate for the video. I want to show you a video here now. It will run for about 1.5 minutes. What's important is not the property or the price. What I want you to think about is what emotion is being cultivated in this video. because the purpose of the video is only to encourage someone to make an appointment. So don't worry that this is a property from the West Coast near the ocean and that you may have a different property. Don't worry about that. Worry about the emotional experience that this video can create. Let's play this video, please. So the emotion right now is a little different than we intended. For the moments that you saw, hopefully, you were having some bit of anticipation, the music was working to your advantage, perhaps the video is making you nostalgic, the way the video was shot with the sunlight. The ending of the video is typically a lot better than that. The ending of the video ends with the husband waiting for the wife, and he has the key to the house behind his back as a surprise. So it's a very nostalgic, powerful, emotional moment that would have been nicer to show, but I think you get the idea. The biggest point to be made here is that the quality in video production is so dramatic between what's done just by hand and what's done by a professional that it is creating a huge gap between the properties with quality video and the properties without. In fact, the property that featured that video had over 6,000 views of that video, and more than 90% watched the video all the way through, which would have been approximately 90 seconds. So every house has a story. It doesn't matter about the price. It doesn't matter about the location. It matters about the emotion you want to create, and obviously it matters about getting an appointment. Because the most important feature of the ad is not that the person watches the video and then says, this house is not for me. It is that they say, maybe this house is for me and I want an appointment to see it. Lastly, I would just say that every video is a listing tool. If you would like to talk to sellers about the difference, then simply investing in one really good video sets a huge difference between you and the competition on the seller side, not just the buyer side. Okay, let's move forward with some other ideas. Emotions can also be used to change the search parameters. For example, we would like for the smart device to automatically be showing us potential properties near us, but it's not always the location that matters. In fact, non-fact-based search is increasing for all sorts of products and services. In the United States, the Inman News Organization actually did an experiment. They created an automatic bot, which is a piece of software, algorithm of software, and they put the bot on Twitter. And they also had an agent on Twitter at the same time. And they asked consumers to interact with the agent and the bot for discovering the right property. And what they found was that the bot was just as effective at asking the right questions as the agent. Now, what does this mean for us? It does not mean that bots, that robots, are going to replace us, but it means we should be using bots to create more interest in our inventory. And one of the best kinds of bots you can create is a quiz. And you can see some of the statistics here, but let me just show you what they look like. Imagine now on your website or mobile app, the ability for someone to search and not just restrict themselves to a price range or a geography or whether it has 2 bedrooms or 3. Instead, what if we can create search based on their lifestyle? So we use these bots to actually ask quizzes to consumers, and consumers love quizzes. They are very excited to know which automobile is best for them, which vacation spot is best for them. Well, why not for homes? So for example, we can start by asking questions that have nothing to do with real estate. If you're making a meal for your family, which is the meal you're likely to make? And they select it. If you are in the pet store, which pet are you likely to get? And they select it. And if you're driving in the car from work, which radio do you listen to? And by making selections based on lifestyle, we can use big data, mountains of research that we have about people that many of these algorithm companies already have acquired, and they can then say, you're most likely to enjoy living in this kind of house. A popular house with columns or windows or tradition or whatever it is. This, of course, is an experiment from one of my clients in Chicago, but it could be just replicated using any set of data. The key part is simply, if we go back here for 1 second, an amazing percentage of quizzes are fully completed. 85% of quizzes are completed, 25% convert into some sort of inquiry for help. And you know this because if you have been on any social media, such as Facebook or LinkedIn, people are constantly completing quizzes that talk about them, and we can now use this technology to change the way they search. Okay, just looking at our time here, I want to add 2 more quick ideas for the digital experience. The typical transaction is about 3 to 6 months, and that basically means you're going to live with your client for a very long time. I don't think anyone got into real estate realizing that they would spend almost a half a year with their clients in general. But if you're going to spend a half a year with clients, then you need to make sure that you're not just providing template updates and basic document management. What you really want to do is think about what you're going to do over those 3 months, 4 months, 6 months to create new channels of communication. So I want to give you some examples that you can look at locally. The best experience industry is the automobile industry. Far better than hotels and travel, except for perhaps the most expensive, luxurious travel. But in general, if you want to get an idea of what it's like to attract, transact, and maintain a long-term relationship, you will find great examples in the automobile industry. In fact, it's an irony that as we were preparing for the program, I was speaking with the translators in the back who said, I know this site because I've used it, and it is something that attracted me and created conversion, and that I use regularly. The client experience platform is, I think, a great competitive frontier. Yes, we have websites that sell us, and they sell our listings. But what happens afterwards? Where does the client go when they need help living in the house, living in the platform? All too often, real estate does not concern itself with this experience, and I think this is a missed opportunity. You all know that living in a house requires a lot of different touch points where your real estate professional could play a very big role. Whether it is decorating, repairing, whether it is preparing it for sale or just moving in afterwards. And I think that we can use this as an example for the experience platforms we could be building. And I think when you look at the ways in which you're generating customer for life experiences, it can't be news. There's no use telling someone who just bought a house what your new listing is this week. There's no use for them to come to your website to see a property that's in a better place at a better price than the one they bought last month. There's no use for them on our sites if they don't have features and tools to essentially live in the property as well as, in the future, sell it again. What customers want mostly is to know that we are still there for them. And so they want to be able to ask questions simply and conveniently, and they will look up all the rest for themselves. I think sometimes we become afraid that if we allow customers to call us after they have sold the house or purchased the house, that we're then becoming responsible for them in some way. I really think of it as much more of a concierge experience. And as we look around, we're starting to see platforms that are changing how companies communicate internally and creating opportunities to continuously communicate externally. So this is an example from Microsoft, but there are lots of different platforms out there. This is called Yammer, which Microsoft paid about $1 billion to acquire. And the primary goal of these products like Yammer or Team or Google Slack, which is another platform similar to this, is to change the nature of how we communicate. Not to say, I will write an email, and then I will wait for a response, and then I will receive an email, and then I will file the email. But to say, I'm simply in constant communication, first with the people I work with, and then ultimately with the people that I serve as clients, as buyers and sellers. And so what's neat about these products, what's so interesting, is that they're starting to change our thinking. To begin with, they're focused on groups. They're focused on small collections of people who are involved in something together. In a company, we're interested in the marketing department, or the finance department, or the sales department. But a group could just as easily be a transaction. The seller, the buyer, the legal representation, the finance, and anyone else who has an opportunity to impact that transaction. Because external communication, is just as important. If you look at the bottom here, the ability to bring in third parties temporarily to the transaction, complete the transaction, and then, if necessary, later bring them back or add new ones as the living process starts. These platforms are completely breaking the concept of a database, email, and text. Instead, they're blending it all together, and it's all done in a constant stream. And you're used to a stream because the environment looks like Facebook. There's no learning curve whatsoever. Your clients will immediately recognize it, you will immediately recognize it, and any vendors that you bring into the process will immediately recognize it. I add content by making a post to this private conversation platform. And I share content by making a post. And when I need to gather big groups or small groups, I can automatically make new groupings without a lot of programming or complication, and simply invite people by email or by text or by application to join the conversation. And in fact, the nicest part about this is that it is platform independent. Anyone can join in this type of platform with any device, new, old, text only, full smartphone, Android, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that the platform is always on and always accessible. And I think this is completely rethinking what it means to be in constant contact with our clients and our customers. So to wrap up, because I am almost out of time here, the digital experience is a mentality. It is not about advertising, it's about experiences. How do they feel when they're discovering, when they're enjoying, when they're exploring? What relationships and connections can we make to consumers that happen before the transaction, during the transaction, and long after the transaction? Take out a big piece of paper, very old school, and draw a map of the experiences your customers have with you today, and ask yourself where those key moments along the way are open to digital engineering. And finally, remember that it's emotional. In a conference about technology, we get excited about new tools and new systems, new algorithms, new software. All of this is powerful and important. But it's all about creating an emotional reaction in our clients and our customers, and even in the people that we work with, that will make the greatest difference and create the most sales. If you'd like a copy of the slides, that's my website. I'd be happy to send them to you. Thank you very much for having me back this year. Appreciate it.